the rebellion. Now, Ras Al-Anouf was just one of the Libyan towns that saw heavy fighting. Al Jazeera's Jackie Rowland was there.
The rebels are edging closer and closer to the Gaddafi heartlands. The territory they call Free Libya now extends almost as far west as Bin Jawad. That's just 200 kilometers from Gaddafi's hometown of Sirte.
We advanced to Bin Jawad and we discovered that Gaddafi troops had recruited teenagers and made them stand on the rooftops to shoot at us. After that, we decided to withdraw from Bin Jawad to work out a new strategy to return and capture the town.
The rebels are chaotic and living on their nerves. Their mood swings from panic to euphoria. But their great strength lies in the conviction that they are liberating their country. The skies are clear again after a sandstorm that lasted several days. And good visibility means enemy aircraft. The rebels are vulnerable from the sky. The pro-Gaddafi forces have aircraft, the opposition fighters don't. It's their one really big disadvantage. Capturing territory and capturing enemy soldiers too. The rebels take us to see a man they've been holding prisoner since Friday. He tells me he's a conscript in the Libyan army.
The army asked me what my specialization was. I said, you can use me as a sentry. So they showed me my post and told me they were watching me. This is war, they said. If you run away, you'll be shot.
Gaddafi's army may outgun the rebels, but the rebels outnumber the army. New volunteers are joining all the time and their morale is high. Just as well, since the heaviest fighting may still lie ahead. Jackie Rowland, Al Jazeera, Ras Al-Anouf in eastern Libya.
Opposition fighters say they've repelled an attack by government forces on the town of Misrata. Gaddafi forces attacked with tanks and artillery, and reports say at least 18 people there were killed in the fighting. Misrata is the largest opposition-held town outside of the eastern part of the country. In Tripoli, the Libyan government is insisting all is calm. These are the latest pictures we have out of the capital. They show Gaddafi supporters packed in Tripoli's Green Square. Now, the demonstrators chanted national songs and waved Gaddafi posters to show their solidarity. There were reports of heavy machine gun fire at dawn in Tripoli, but officials say that was a celebration at what they call the end of the war. Anita McNaught is in the capital for us.
There's a constant refrain in this crowd. The people are happy, but Al Jazeera knows nothing. Extremely festive crowd. Excuse me for a moment. This extremely festive crowd, people are celebrating what they believe are significant strategic gains by Muammar Gaddafi's forces against the rebels here. But this celebration, such as it is, has been going on since before dawn. Before dawn, the sound of gunfire across the city. They're telling us that gunfire was merely in celebration. And it's true, they're both firing automatic rifles here and they're letting off volleys from anti-aircraft batteries near the port. That is government forces, but the sound of gunfire through the city has been echoing for hours now. Has it all been celebratory? It's very hard to tell.
A senior U.S. senator has warned that U.S. ground troops in Libya would be, quote, counterproductive. But John Kerry, who chairs the U.S. Senate's Foreign Relations Committee, also said the international community should begin preparations for a no-fly zone in the event of a massacre of civilians by the Libyan Air Force. Nick Clark in D.C. has more for us. Nick?
Imran, thanks very much. Yes, John Kerry, a leading foreign policy voice in the United States, works closely with the White House, and he's indicated that any kind of ground force in Libya is very much a last option. Well, while Senator Kerry said it's preferable for the UN and NATO to support a no-fly zone, he said there are other options. Kristen Salumi has been looking at the UN's record of implementing no-fly zones.
Please, United Nations, save Libya.
The impassioned pleas of the Libyan delegation to the United Nations inspired the international community to enact sanctions against Libya's Muammar Gaddafi and sparked what has become an international debate over one possible next step, a no-fly zone.
Something has to be done concerning the declaring a non-fly zone on all the cities of Libya.
The last time the UN Security Council authorized a no-fly zone was in 1992 over Bosnia during that country's civil war. It took a year to get all members of the council on board. Do you think the Security Council will get around to imposing a no-fly zone?
I think it's very likely if the conflict doesn't end soon, if the humanitarian situation gets worse.
Mohammed Sakrbi was Bosnia's UN ambassador at the time.
Yes, Bosnia is Europe, Libya is North Africa, but it seems that overwhelmingly there is a similar desire to see the UN Security Council be more assertive in bringing the conflict to an end, as well as helping the civilian population.
But it's the no-fly zone imposed on Iraq in the 90s and kept in place for more than a decade that gives some Security Council diplomats pause. Enacted primarily by the U.S. and the United Kingdom, without international backing, it is now associated with the controversial U.S.-led invasion of Iraq. Some diplomats, including veto-wielding members China and Russia, have expressed reservations about taking action that could be seen as promoting regime change and that could set the stage for long-term military commitments. But Sakrbi believes the Security Council has already crossed that line.
There is not only a cost to intervention, there is a cost to non-intervention. There is a cost to not applying the no-fly zone. And that cost is that you may have to do more in the end. You may be facing a much more complex situation, and you may have to use significantly greater force to bring about the desired result.
At this stage, the Security Council has shown no inclination for further action on Libya. But the calls for a no-fly zone are likely to continue as long as Muammar Gaddafi remains in power. And the more Libyans who die, the harder it will be for those calls to be ignored. Kristen Salumi, Al Jazeera, the United Nations.
All right, that's the UN position. Let's go back to what John Kerry had to say, Senator John Kerry. This was during an interview on US television. And he said that $30 billion of Gaddafi's assets had been frozen and would be made available to the opposition for, quotes, a new Libya. He also said the opposition was only now just beginning to shape itself. Kerry said it's in the American national interest for Gaddafi to step down because of the, quotes, mischief he threatens in the future, as he put it, and that America was making its presence felt in the region by offering humanitarian assistance. Well, let's take this on a little bit, speak to John Terrett, correspondent here in DC. John, how significant are these comments? Because Kerry, of course, was the man who was fairly outspoken during the whole Egypt uprising.
Nick, you're absolutely right. I mean, John Kerry, for the benefit of our viewers, is one of the most senior politicians in the United States. He's a Democrat, just like the president, comes from the northeastern state of Massachusetts, and he's one of the chairmen on the very powerful Senate Foreign Relations Committee. And he challenged President Bush for the White House back in 2004, so he's very well known. As you say, he also in recent weeks has been speaking on behalf of the administration, particularly during the Egypt crisis, when I think it's fair to say he spoke on behalf of the White House, calling for President Mubarak to stand down by writing an op-ed piece in New York.